Kim has a little bit in the of what we're going to talk about here.
Breaking barriers. Breaking barriers.
Good evening, everybody. Revolution McInnes here with Kimberly Scott, Kimberly K, and Dino Moore in 2023. I have an odd number bias, so this is my year, 2023. I like that odd number thing. I like threes a lot, and that works well for me. Kim and Dino, we are going to be talking about 2022. And we're going to be kind of throwing in a bunch of different stuff. So I'm going to throw it to one of you, and you all know what to do.
Welcome, guys. It's so great to see you here in 2023. It was so great to see all of you take this journey with us at Breaking Barriers in 2022. We lost some people, we gained some people, we lost some weight, we gained some weight. Hopefully in the new year, whatever you are trying to do, whatever New Year's resolution, I was going to make some joke with Rev here. New Year revolutions, but I didn't get it out as easily. But resolutions you have set for yourself, we hope that you are into those. If you have set just the fact that you want to just be a better person or just be better than last year, that's okay too. So as we go into this next year, seems like the year that keeps on giving, which is 2020. I just feel like we're living the same year over and over, Groundhog Day. But having said all of that, we are going to be jumping into sort of a year in review of last year. What did we see that went on that really sparked people's interest? What was politically correct? What was politically incorrect? What happened? What has not happened yet? Who have we been keeping an eye on? What big things happened socially, also with celebrities. So we have some sad topics, some big topics, some political topics, some little topics. But at the end of the day, we also are going to be just doing what we do best, and that's breaking barriers and sharing a little bit also about our personal journey at the end of the show. So stick around for that, what our personal journeys were like as we gained Rev on this journey. And we've also gained a lot of perspective, and we learned a lot about ourselves and the show and the process. So welcome to Breaking Barriers 2023. We are also excited to share with you what we have coming up for this next year. So I think we're going to dive right into some of the topics that we saw most interesting this last year. And I will just start off with just this one, and that is because this is about humanity. This show, this platform, Dig on America, is about humanity. As I was talking to Jason yesterday, Dutch, as you guys know him. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, Dino and Rev, but we last year surpassed 8 billion humans on this planet. 8 billion. That is mind-blowing to me. That was a big deal last year. Forever, we all got to say, oh, there's 7 billion humans on the planet. Or if you broke up with your girlfriend, you got to say, oh, there's 7 billion people on the planet. I can find another one. Well, now there's another billion. So
wow.
How are you guys feeling about that?
I like it. There's another billion to, I need
another girlfriend for Rev.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 5.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. You got it. The odd number bias. Dino, what about you? What does 8 billion people mean to you?
You know what, I don't know, honestly. Like with the famines we see and the issues around the world, I I always watch these shows where AI comes to life and determines that the problem with the planet is the people on the planet, and they
Yeah,
want to get
of
rid of
course.
people in like in large numbers, and um so it just feels like less resources to go around. Like where I live, I moved here and it was so nice. Like it was like these 2 lane roads and trees and everything. And now there's
You said, and trees.
construction. Yeah, there were trees. It was a beautiful thing. And now everywhere I go, the poor trees are gone, and there's deer everywhere because they don't have a place to live because they're building these condos here, and it just feels closer. I mean, the internet made the world feel smaller, but it feels even smaller
Yeah.
now. And I wonder where these people coming from, because when you see like tsunamis happening and all these people dying, and then like but the population
COVID.
keeps rising, so people are humping in like greater numbers somewhere.
Giraffe
Well, what else
had
did
been
you have to
scary.
do during COVID, but the Humpty Hump there?
Exactly.
I do think it does bring, it does bring to question some of those things that you talked about, Dino. When I think about it, I'm a big kind of dystopian movie fan, and a lot of times those AI, those dystopian, they do talk about like the humans taking the resources and this need to move to different planets. So I don't know. I don't think I actually thought about it until you actually said it when we were doing the pre-production show, and you said, we did pass 8 billion people on the planet, and I was like, it's not like that was a million that we added 1 million. We added 1 billion. And then my brain was like the same, like, where the hell all these people come from? Like, did China like say everybody can have as many kids as they want now? Which I know they did, but yeah. So, I mean, I lived in the South. I'm a family of
I'm
5
sorry.
kids. So yeah, no, we do not do that here. I am loud and proud, like mouth of the South, like by far. I love being raised there. Just like with any place that has its pros and cons, but I would not change it, as I told people last week. But I will say this, I came from a family of 5, and resources were tough. We were on assistance a lot. So it does bring into question, as we move into some other topics, are we treating the planet well enough for the natural resources? Do we have our government in place that can help us in these areas of service, and those people that may not always be of privilege, not in that top 1% all the time? So it does bring into question leadership as we go forward. 8 billion may not seem like a big deal, but when it comes to sharing resources and taking care of humans and humanity, it will start to make a big difference that we will look at differently as we go on. So, so having said that, we lost Queen Elizabeth this year. Speaking of humans and long time running dynasties, or sorry, what's it called? It's not a dynasty. What do you call it?
Monarchy.
Monarchy, excuse me.
Yeah.
We lost Queen Elizabeth this year, and we also gained the Prince Harry, Meghan Markle documentary about the monarchy and how that's gone. So just the duality of that, losing Queen Elizabeth. I don't think it's a coincidence that they released it after she passed. So yeah, I know that those two things are, have currently gone on. First time we've had a king in a long time. So that's been an interesting change.
That's going to be interesting. It's funny. Like when she died, all this negative stuff came out, and I guess working in film, I live in the fantasy world. I'm a big fan of the show The Crown.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God, it's great. I like in that white watching those kinds of shows. So I was like, she seemed pretty decent to me. I don't know.
Well, The Crown too is it is fiction, and it's fictionalized reality, which I kind of like that, because in my fictionalized reality I look like George Clooney. But the but the monarchy, and now we have a king. Well, we don't, King Charles, but they do. And I said this I will say this to all my Scottish relatives. All right, we let her rule for like 90 years to be nice, but now that it's King Charles, game on. We're going to get that throne back. So let's get all the Scots together and let's rush down into London and grab that stone sitting under that seat and take it back to the motherland. So let's go, Scots.
Right.
For me, I've not really been a person who kept up with the royal family as much as people did. When Princess Diana was a big figure, my mom followed her. She did the hair wave kind of haircut that Princess Diana did back in the day. So I know that was a big, really popular thing back when Prince Charles and Diana got married. So I know people really got locked on that. And then this whole Meghan Markle, Prince Harry thing happened, and they were back in it again, watching things again. From I think a U.S. perspective is what I mean. Of course, the UK, they keep up with it. But this new documentary has been interesting because it shed a lot of light on how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle saw the experience. But as I've been watching the internet, it's very divided. There's a lot of people from the UK that they were so about Prince Harry. They loved him to death, but now they're calling him like a liar. And they're saying that Meghan Markle just wants attention. So it's even divided on that. I think that the documentary is one of those things where, it's ignorance is bliss. And as long as people can stay in that ignorance, they feel much better about the choices and the people that they follow. So at the end of the day, I think Prince William and Kate Middleton obviously fits more of what the royals like, and Meghan Markle does not fit that. Prince Harry was always kind of the outcast in that. So if you haven't caught the documentary, if it's not your jam, you don't have to catch it. But I found it very enlightening. I don't know if all of it's exactly the truth. We know there's always like two sides to every story, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle. So, watch with caution and, use your intuition. But definitely a very enlightening documentary from the perspective of what pressures people in that experience really go through from the monarchy side, and also what we think it looks like to join it, which is the pretty hats and the pretty outfits and the events and the dresses and the weddings. But at the end of the day, in that the documentary that came out, Meghan Markle talked about she wanted to take her life. She felt like she was, hated by an entire country. And I don't know that I could ever take that pressure on personally. I'd be like, sorry, Harry, you might be my soulmate, but I'll catch you in another lifetime. So, yeah.
Bring it on. Bring it on. I'll take that pressure for her. Screw. Oh, wait, we can cuss on here, right? Fuck those people. Because you know what? I have had the briefest, and you've had more, and maybe Dino has too, but I've had the briefest bit of fame a couple of times in my life, and it has been hell. Like the dirt bags that you pick up along the way is shitty. So you can imagine the dirt bags she picks up along the way. Now, I'm assuming that she's in love with Prince Harry, right? And so you want to be with somebody. That's why you get married. She wasn't a huge star, but she had to know going into it what the attention was going to be like. She doesn't want any more. I can guarantee you she's not going after attention, because you don't have to go after it. It's there and it sucks, and they are horrible to you. They either hate you or they love you over there. And, that would suck. But, just bring all her shit on me, because you know what? It's just not fair. And it's ridiculous. And personally, get rid of the monarchy. That's just me.
Well, and she was, as we go down to Dino, we're gonna move to some things that happened in Iran. Speaking of, women empowerment, sort of just kept these topics in flow. But she was famous for Suits, and she was going into some other movies, and Prince Harry saw her on Suits, and
that's cool.
He was asked in an interview, like, who is your crush? Who's your dream girl? And he said, her name from Suits. And so he kind of manifested her into his life. He watched her on that show, and that he picked her. That's who. What a way to
pick somebody up.
Yeah, he said it in an interview, and
I'm a prince, and I like her.
I like her. And next, they meet, and they become what they are. And I think it also shows, you know, that the racist side of the UK still is very powerful there, because they really did, every time she would wear a certain outfit, if Kate Middleton would wear something very similar, it would be she's stylish, she's beautiful. And if you look at the tabloids, you can see these comparisons. Meghan Markle would wear something and it'd be like, oh, it's trashy, she's not classy. And it's the same fucking outfit, like stupid things like that. So I did see the comment, welcome, Killmonger Reborn. We always love having you on. Says Tucker Carlson, I love that name, complaining that the UK was becoming woke by not pushing imperialism. So yeah, they're just as much a mess as we are. Dino, any final thoughts on that before we, or just, you know, taking us into the Iran story?
Oh no further thoughts on that. And but yeah, we're gonna talk about Masha Amini and her death and the protests which it sparked. It's weird how the United States sees protests in other countries and believes that what they want is democracy, when in fact, you know, the democratic republic that we enjoy or that we have is like the youngest government probably on the planet. So, you know, we don't know that what we've got is going to work. But what I will say, being a Muslim myself, the bravery it takes for women to, especially in an Islamic country, to take off their hijab to protest. And I don't know if we as Americans realize that's a big deal. Like that's
and
a
women
huge
to
deal.
shave their head and cut their
Yes.
hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly. And it's a big thing. I mean, in countries where women aren't allowed to be out in public alone, where they have to take, like, if they don't have a husband, they need a brother to escort them places. And where women, you know, can't have driver's licenses and things like that. So it's them finding the courage to rise up and protest their treatment is a big deal. And much of what goes on there isn't really what isn't really Islam. It's not in the Quran. The way they're treated, there are things that are religious and there are things that are cultural. And they were doing these things culturally before, you know, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, walked the earth. They were this way before that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a big deal, and it's good to see what people rising up together in the name of freedom.
Yeah,
what do you think,
I would agree.
I think too that you brought up there early this idea about democracy, and whenever the United States installs a government after we've kicked somebody's butt or whatever, or, you know, run with our tails between our legs, but we tend to install a system that is based on, like in the UK, a parliamentary system. We don't even try to put in our type of system here because, you know, it's very unique, but we've always, you know, put a parliamentary system, which I'm kind of interested in. I think that would be cool. Here, I'm getting a good night hug here.
Cute.
Good night, buddy.
Good night.
They said good night.
So cute.
But yeah, Kim, I know this touched you deeply. I mean, you had an emotional reaction to what was going on, so I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, you know, one of the hardest things, you know, as women, is to be under this set of rules that are either spoken or unspoken at any point from the moment you're born. And depending on what type of life you're born into, there might be more or less privilege in that life. But to some level, many women feel these pressures and these these things like we talked about with Meghan Markle, or even women of different cultures fulfilling these ideas that maybe, they don't agree with, that they were just born into culturally, and someone has given them a religion or a culture and they must follow it. The emotional reaction I had to it was because, anytime I see women standing together on something, and really you can see the emotion in pictures. So as an ex-photojournalist, when I see photos and they are really, those photos are really portraying the emotion in those women's faces. You can see the tears, you can see the passion. I can only imagine being in a country, like that, and being under that sort of scrutiny over and rule over my hair, what I have to wear, what I have to cover up, what my body is. And so for me, watching those pictures, it inspired me. It infuriated me. It motivated me. And then it had me ask, but beyond that, what can I do? Where do I fit into this equation as a woman that's living in the US that is, probably seen as privileged and actually privileged? How do I fit in to that battle that's going over there? How do I support it in a way that's not like just performative activism and just maybe putting up some photos like we saw when the women of Turkey had their protest, and then we kind of took over that black and white challenge that we saw a couple years ago. It's really hard to understand where you fit, but I do think that the women of many countries and many cultures could learn lessons from what we saw, and that is standing and banding together. So no matter where you come from and what your religion is, what your privilege is, at the end of the day, that was very inspiring to see those women stand together. And the other part that really moved me was, like I said, people cutting their hair off. So it wasn't just removing, anything. It was they were cutting their hair. And I know that every time I've cut my hair very short, I did it after my sister's death. I've done it after a couple times where I think I was probably in a nervous breakdown, like a divorce or something, and I was just trying to change my life. But cutting my hair off was very dramatic for me, and it was very cathartic in some ways, but it was also very traumatic in other ways. So to watch these women literally cutting off hair, for me, it symbolized, and I'll wrap the point I'm making here, it symbolized the weight that they're carrying. And I know that that's the way it's what it symbolized for me, is that when I cut my hair, it means that cutting all of that weight off, all of the dead parts that are on the bottom of most women's hair. I hear a lot of women say that when they cut their hair very short, it feels like it's not only literally that you're losing weight off of you, but there's this figurative weight that a lot of women have carried for years. And that's because they've had the pressures sometimes, like in US culture, that longer hair is more beautiful or a certain type of hair is more beautiful. So when women finally either grow their natural hair out or cut that hair off, it's very freeing, and figuratively that weight is lifted. I saw similar to that in this scenario with the protest. It felt like figuratively when the women cut their hair, shaved their heads, they were also releasing the weight of cultures and religions and things that were put on them that were not their choices. And they were kind of taking that power back and saying, this is our fucking choice, and we're not going to, stand in line, and we're not going to continue to believe in something. And we want it to be known that we don't stand for what you did. You killed a woman for letting her headpiece fall, not just removing it. She let it fall. It was the way that she let it just rest. And that's what she was killed for in custody. So if anybody doesn't understand the story, that was more of the story that we're talking about tonight, because we didn't really go into that fully, but just wanted to kind of give the fullness of that.
Yeah,
that
Kim,
I just want to give the name. And go ahead, Rev, because you might be saying what I
well,
was
yeah,
say.
no, I just wanted to chime in because, in the United States, we protest, sometimes for a while, sometimes not, but we go home. They've had thousands of people arrested and over 500 deaths when they're protesting. I mean, they're not playing. Like, you can go to a protest and be killed by the government. That does not happen, in this country. We can be upset about a lot of things. So, there's a certain privilege in that. But go ahead, Kim, you were gonna mention a name, you said.
Yeah, so just for anybody here, it's Masa Amini, which is what Dino explained. So she was killed in custody. So she was in custody for her hijab falling and not wearing it properly. And then the protests that we're talking about are the women who just said, you know, we're not fucking okay with this, and they started shaving their head, doing protest, and taking their hijab. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Because I can't get the words out.
Hijab, yeah.
Hijab off.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think is really powerful in watching that as we wrap this portion up is, you know, Rev, you said it. There are certain people here that going to protest have more privilege that they may not be killed. And most of the US do have the idea that if they go to protest, they may be injured, but maybe not killed. And some may be actually, we have seen people who have actually been killed in that. But on the scale of what we see over there is very different. And the fact that they knew that going into these protests, that these women knew going in, that it was almost like I have just as much chance going into this protest as many men going in and women going into war have of dying. You know, I think that says a lot more about where their heads were and the fact that that meant so much to them. So that's why I had a very emotional reaction, because I'm very justice oriented. And at the end of the day, the people who did this are not going to be brought to justice for this. And as Dutch said, she was, you know, murdered in custody. So I just think that at the end of the day, we could learn lessons for the idea of coming together. And that's what our show is about. So that's why we really wanted to bring this to the forefront of why it was important to us this last year, why it was important to me, because Breaking Barriers is about trying to have these conversations and get those open dialogues open so that we can stand together as opposed to apart. Looks like we do have a comment before we move to our next topic, which will be the how we came out of COVID. We're rotating some positive and some negatives here. So Destiny Moore says, I feel the goal and the idea of protesting has definitely been altered in the US. It's less about making a change and more like I want to be seen protesting for validation. How do you guys, I have an opinion on that, but I think, Dino, you should go first on that one. Thanks, Destiny, for sharing that. That's a really great point.
Well, I don't want to put everything on the new generation, okay? Because this new generation isn't messing around, okay? So I'll say that. However, and you guys know where I stand with voting. When you see the numbers protesting versus the number of people who visit the ballot box, it's so disparaging. So, and I ask myself, are they the same thing? Are they doing this to be seen, protesting, or are they really trying to make a change? Because when we look at our forefathers in the 60s, as you said, just about them protesting over there, like the civil rights movement, they're putting their lives on the line. Blacks, whites, women, men, together, arm in arm. Those that chose to go out there, they were risking their lives. Now, not so much. So yeah, it appears to be at times more of a show. However, I will say congratulations to this new generation, because they showed up in the midterms.
They did.
Finally, like in numbers that were respectable. So yeah, I can agree to some extent. It does seem like they want to appear. Those who hold on to the term woke, they really want to be woke and they want to be seen as being woke. So they show up for that. But you know, if we don't add time in the voting box, if we don't add calling your senators and your congressmen, if we don't add those things, then what are we really protesting about?
And I would just want to jump into in Chicago. I really feel like the Laquan McDonald protest that we had here for quite a while, and that was the young man that was shot 16 times, you know, for doing nothing but, you know, kind of walking away. I'm not even going to get into the details of what he did, but he did not deserve to be shot or killed. But in Chicago, that was very consistent. And I do feel like that did put pressure on getting that policeman even arrested and then eventually convicted. So, it can work here as well, and it does. And Big Haas there says there is a spectrum. Some do for show, most feel the impact and have had enough. But protesting does not remove the barrier in place to voting that is being protested.
So yeah, thanks for reading that, Rev, because that's what I was going to speak to as well. And thanks for Big Hoss for being here in that point. So that was the piece that I was going to add. I have a generation of Gen X kids, sorry, Gen Z kids. I'm Gen X and millennial. So I'm right on that year cusp. They would call me a Zennial. And then Sinjin, my partner, is a millennial. So we have 3 generations in our home. So I get to see how we all approach these things. One of the things I would say is, I have to agree somewhat with you, Dino, on certain things where I do see more of the performative activism, a lot of times with the black square on Instagram, or like the black and white photo that was taken over by women on Instagram when it was actually a protest thing from Turkey. Things like that. Women, a lot of people like to get in it, even companies like to do that. But when I go down to protest, when I've actually gone down there and photographed or been down there to actually be a part of things in certain areas, I can feel the electricity through my body, the pain and the anger, and I think justified anger that the people that are there are feeling. And maybe I have not experienced everything that has gone on, but a sense of empathy allows me to look at it and say, I can see why there's so much anger in this, because it's like Vikas said, there's an idea that, people have had enough. There's a fatigue of sorts, that people are getting tired of carrying this message and carrying this fight and hoping others will pick it up in more of the action steps. So as we go through this, and we'll go back to Big Haas's comment after this, just want to, speak to what performative activism is, because we do like to educate here as well. Performative activism would be something more like just wanting to be seen on an Instagram post or TikTok or, online, and protesting something, but not really putting action to that. So just saying, like, say her name, Breonna Taylor, but then never really doing anything about it, not calling your congressman, not taking that extra step to call your government officials and say, hey, I'm not okay with this. There's many leaders, I won't name them because some different ones are controversial, so I won't actually put anybody on the spot here. But there's many leaders in, Black Lives Matter movements and a lot of protest movements, and they show you on their Instagrams, here are the people to call, here are the numbers to call, here's how you can donate to these foundations that actually help people in these scenarios, so that you can put that action behind the protest. So going down and protesting and taking some pictures so you look cool on Instagram, that's not, that's not the biggest issue. And I agree with Killmonger, Built Reborn, saying her name is definitely important. So I agree on the saying her name, is important, because it does put a voice to the cause. So beyond that, if you're just doing it for validation for people online, that's where I'm talking about performative activism, not the people that continue to say her name, wear it on shirts at award shows. We've got to stop telling celebrities that they have to sit down and shut up and they can't talk about these causes as well. That's another problem that I think we have in this country, is thinking that actors are only one level and that they are superficial and that they shouldn't talk about politics. When we just elected a reality star a couple of years ago, Ronald Reagan is one of the most popular presidents for some reason, and he was an actor who had opinions on politics. So when people do stand up, and they do stand up for these causes, I think that's great. But I do agree with you, Dino, that from an outside perspective looking in, I don't see as many people showing up to the voting as they do to the protest. Now, do I have an opinion on that as to why? I really don't. I'm not educated enough to know why that is. And if somebody wants to give us some more, I guess, understanding on that, that would be great. But what I have seen is, the more we've seen protest happen, the more we've seen people actually show up. So it may not be the same numbers, but the numbers have increased since the protests have increased. So in my, from what I've seen in the numbers, as I've seen more protests the last couple of years, I did see more people actually showing up to vote. Now, Gen Z might be, not showing up all the time, but they are making noise. They are changing the status quo, and they are making people pay attention, whether they're triggering people or they're making people inspired to do something. At least they're not fucking stagnant like a couple of our generations. I'm Gen X, and I just know that we were just sitting around letting shit happen, and some of this stuff is inherited. So at the end of the day, I'm not one to jump on Gen Z and the new generations, because I do tend to see some of the inherited problems that we sat around and just sort of enjoyed the neutral zone until shit popped off. And then it was like, all right, well, you Gen Zers better get out there and vote your ass off, when they're just coming into knowing themselves and their own identities in politics. But that's just my 75 cents. So
Well,
having said that-
cha-ching. I was busily trying to compose a Twitter ad there to let people know we are live. And just so you know, this is Breaking Barriers. We're about 35 minutes into it, and we are doing a nice year in review. And I am digging all these comments that we are seeing. These are nice and fun. And Dino, I don't know if you wanted to finish on this subject or not, but then I think Kim's going to take us, you said, into something else here, COVID maybe.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good. It's funny. I'm kind of lagging, so if I look like a robot, I'm sorry, but
you look very
I hope you guys can
futuristic.
hear me
I like the
okay.
purple headphones. Yeah, we
It's
can hear
it's
you.
yeah, it's weird. No, we can move on. We got a lot of topics to cover. It was a long year, so let's go
Yeah,
move on.
we want to thank Destiny and Killmonger Reborn and Big Hoss for keeping those comments going and keeping the dialogue and the conversation. That's what we're here for, is those uncomfortable conversations, being more comfortable with them. So thank you for being the example. So having said that, moving on, one of the biggest things that we did do is we sort of came out of COVID. Jason said it at the beginning of the podcast, Dutch. He said, I thought it was kind of funny. He said, 2022 was the best year we've had in the last 3 years. Low bar, but true, was his words. And I'll put that back up. So basically, what we did was we saw people coming back out, really trying to embrace, not and the old way of living. Some people tried to embrace the old way, but there is no old way. We will never go back to the old way. We do have a new standard. And I guess I'll pass it to you guys, because I've done a lot of speaking on things, and then I'll go to my point. But something that I really noticed was people that wear masks, people actually wearing masks more often when there's not exactly a rule saying that they have to, but more so like we do see in Asian countries where people just wear masks just in general, people going back out and then sort of self-governing. Like, I feel comfortable, or I'm reading the news, I'm not as comfortable. That's what I'm seeing in my groups, but I know we all have different belief systems. So it felt good to finally see things open and to see people back and getting their businesses back, and some mental health restorative, restoring mental health for some people that felt they were very isolated. But I know that this is very personal to you, Rev, because as much as we are all celebrating coming out of COVID in a lot of ways and making it through, you personally lost your father during COVID. So I wanted to kind of check in with you on that, and how that duality of making it through and coming back sort of outward into real life again, but also the passing of your father. Sorry if that was a trigger. I didn't really ask.
Oh, no, you're fine. No. I mean,
I
Kim,
know
we
you
made
talk
the,
about it publicly.
Yeah, we made the Chicago Tribune, right? I mean, I know that we have, because I've had people convey it to me that, they got vaccinated because of that article in the Tribune, and it really woke some people up. And so that was something that, look, and I know my dad would be proud, but it's just funny. My mom is literally texting me right now, because I'd sent her a little video, because I've been pulling stuff off my dad's computers. But I'm going to tell you this right now. I lost my dad to COVID and to QAnon, and to his, mental illness that I think kind of let QAnon creep in there a little bit, because at the beginning of all of that, he was very much about bringing everybody together. And so, and I know this show is very much about, including as many people as we can. So I do appreciate you touching on that. And I will definitely say that the COVID was horrible, for our family. It was devastating. And I know dozens and dozens. And of course, we lost, 1 million plus people, and we lost 200,000 or 300,000 that shouldn't have died because of not getting vaccinated. And I know personally dozens and dozens of people that lost lots of people, not just one person, but, multiples of people. So it does feel good, though, in a lot of ways, to be seemingly beyond the period, though I don't think COVID has really gone away. And in fact, the new strain is supposed to be the most, what are
Yeah.
they, you catch it the most easily. I'm not thinking of the right scientific words there, but
Yeah.
but having said that, we're really not out of it, and it's endemic, and it's not gone away. And in a lot of ways, people just have stopped in some sense paying attention to it. But as I was wearing the literal welders, like the N95 level mask
Yeah.
at times, and because I picked one of those up early, and I don't wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. I mean, I've been boosted, and I think we may have had it, asymptomatically or whatever, but I'm going through life through all of this, and you would think I would wear a mask too. But it's one in Japan and places like China, that is a culture that is very much a conformist culture. They tend to conform to the will of the state, and and then we do here. They don't have that same sense of independence. So but yeah, I haven't really been wearing a mask. I went to the doctor today, so we did. Everybody had to wear them. But if they tell us to again, I'm going to wear them. You know what I mean? That's just what you should do. So thank you, though, for bringing that up, and never hesitate doing it, because we got something good coming out of my dad's death, and that, he would be very, very happy to know that. And I will just say, at the end, he did seem to realize, as he got some cogent moments, that he had made a mistake in not getting vaccinated. And I will quickly say too that he really was a hero to our family, because my mother had it at the same time, and they were babysitting my nephew. And had my dad gone to the hospital sooner, he would have probably lived, because it was the blood gases that, what I mean? Like it was super low. He wasn't going to make it. Yeah. He wasn't going to make it. So that was obvious. But anyway, so, he did the right thing. I would have done it too. I would have stayed with my mom and my nephew as long as I needed to, because I would have been worried about them as well. So yeah. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, of course. And, just felt like we couldn't just go into the celebration part without acknowledging some of the loss. And for any of you that are out there watching and listening to this as well, our condolences and our thoughts go to you with anyone that you might have lost. We understand that coming out of COVID is not always a celebration for everyone. So we wanted to acknowledge that first. On the other side, I'm still wearing a mask. I'm an immunocompromised person, so I wear a mask out a lot. I was someone who could not receive the second shot of vaccines. I reacted really poorly, but that is just an example of me. I don't really have any thing to say, so please don't DM me asking me about thoughts on vaccines or what I believe in them, because I've tried to educate myself, and I'm still very, very confused myself. However, coming out of COVID, a couple things I did see that I thought were actually positives were things that I noticed in COVID, where people really, I don't know if you saw this, Rev, or anyone else saw this. We saw people realize they could become chefs. We saw people become artists. We saw people learn how to draw. We saw people get crafty. We saw people making videos for the first time, writing books. We saw people reconnecting with family members. We saw some people ending relationships with family members because of the politics. But we really saw people being forced into this place of, I got to figure out things online. And then, not instead of just being online, and that, like, I'm in the house all day. Coming out of COVID, I really hope that people take those things that they learned and they apply those to life, and really decide that they don't want to live online all the time. And those things that you learned, if you really enjoyed coloring books, or if you really enjoyed, becoming a chef. I saw a lot of people who got into photography during COVID, because any sort of artistic outlet during COVID was sort of a mental health thing. So those are some of the positives that I did see, which was people started realizing that they were actually more talented, more intelligent, more crafty than they probably thought. another great thing that, COVID did bring in some ways was the time that people actually had to spend with their families. And also this idea for some companies that people could work from home, people that have social anxieties or physical disabilities, they could work from home and be just as efficient as going into the office. And some businesses actually learned that they could save their businesses by not doing brick and mortar, not forcing people to come into the office, and not paying rent every month. And so they were actually in a better place after COVID because they were able to rid themselves of rent and go forward with people working from home. So, it's sort of again, duality. We are on breaking barriers. There's always going to be two sides to things. And that's what we love. But it seems like as much loss that we had, if you are that silver lining type of person, and there isn't a silver lining to death, of course, but if you see the silver lining to the actual journey, then there were lots of people that found new hobbies and new relationships. Some people found their soulmates because they were able to slow down and actually take time and get to know people. So that's what I saw was that, as much loss and pain that we saw, it was great to see people finding more about themselves, connecting with family, and continuing to learn more about themselves in more ways than they probably would before. So, Dino, we got you back. So I don't know, how do you feel about COVID? Because
Well,
it is sort of bittersweet that we came back and we're celebrating it, but we are in reverence of the loss as well.
yeah, I agree with Rev in something that he said. And one, it was announced we were out of COVID. We never came out of COVID. We're in COVID. We're in what we're achieving is this new normal that
Yeah.
we're going to learn to live with this. And having gotten COVID and spent 2 weeks in the ICU myself, um, it gave me a perspective on life. And I wasn't vaccinated at the time. I am now, but I wasn't then. And it's funny. Few things like something I heard you say. The 40-hour work week is ludicrous. It's to it's I don't know where that came from, why that's a standard, and that's something that's talked on about that Dutch and those guys talk about on the Big Show because they know those kinds of things. So that's not my
Yeah.
thing, but I'm sure they know why there's a 40-hour work week. But it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I mean, when do you spend time with your families? And you said it, Kim, and I'm grateful to COVID for that because we started calling the people that we love more and saying, I love you. My daughters moved here partly because I almost died from COVID and they wanted to be closer to me, and it made our relationship better. So I'm grateful for those things. Um, but in also seeing the anti-vaxxers, which I think are hysterical, by the way, because I was watching Andy Griffith. I love black and white television the other day. 1960, Andy Griffith, black and white television, and there was a traveling nurse on there. She asked Andy to help her get people vaccinated, and it was weird to hear. They went up in the hills to get this hillbilly guy, and he was like, he's a moonshiner and everything, and he's like, I'm
My
not
dad.
taking that jab. And I'm like, wow, they said that back in. I'm not taking that jab. The government could put something in that. I'm not gonna die. And they were getting vaccinated against things like the flu and measles, and so these vaccines have been around forever. And the thinking, which I saw as kind of being new, that these anti-vaxxers came out of the woodwork. I'm like, wow, it's on the Andy Griffith show, and it's just repeating itself. So it's fun to see, but the reality is this: our hospitals are still overloaded with COVID
Hmm.
cases. Doctors are still overworked. There's still so these things are still happening. So are we have we just given up on you know wearing the mask? And some people who are now, because they are alive, they're saying, well, I survived COVID, so I'm not going to get a vaccine now. I survived COVID.
Yeah.
Well, it if what they say on Twitter is true. This young lady, what's her name? Diamond from Diamond and Silk.
Yeah.
Trump's big supporters, the anti-vaxxers. It looks like she passed away from COVID.
Right.
And she was a big anti-vaxxer. So people are still dying, and we still need to devote resources and time to it. But so, though we got this new normal, it has taught us to appreciate the breaths that we breathe, appreciate those around us. Before my mom passed away, I thought, to myself, I wish I said I love you more. And though I know I said it enough, could have said it one more time. You know what I mean? And, when we think about, me being 50 now, none of us, you say the average person in the United States dies at like 72, but do we really have that long?
Right.
That's what COVID taught us. Do we really have that? Because as Destiny said, she lost a friend that she went to high school with, and Destiny's 21.
Right.
So kids are dying. So,
We're seeing a lot of younger people with post-COVID issues, from heart issues to, organ things. So yeah, it's more long-standing, and I think it's exactly what you said. It's a new norm, and it looks like we had a comment here. Pat from Switzerland, thanks for coming here at 4 a.m. being with us. He says we learned to live with it. If vaccinated or not, the split between has ended. And I think for the most part, we do see some of that. And Destiny says COVID caused this monumental shift for pretty much everyone, changing life paths, life views, etc. I think that was, that's very true. And then Big Haas, of course, on the Breaking Barriers different side of it, says not in the U.S. To Pat, it's still divided. So that's why I wanted to mention those, because I do think in certain parts of the world, everybody kind of came to some agreement on like, this is what we're going to do. But the US, we are a different breed. And, Dino, you said it at the beginning, we are the youngest, pretty much one of the youngest countries. And we fucking act like it sometimes. We act like fucking children over here, like siblings. Like we can't get together. We had the fucking Civil War already happen. Then you had these people out here in these civil rights movements trying to band together, and then everybody's divided again. It's not even always divided over race. Sometimes it's divided over a fucking mask. So it's like, at what point do we realize that we are not the greatest country? And every time I say that, I get so much drama, and that's fine. Bring that shit on. But at the end of the day, like, we have to recognize that quality of life is what we're talking about here. And you're talking about life expectancies. So if we don't have tomorrow promised, if something like COVID landed and nobody prepared for that, nobody was ready to even deal with that, and it was actually dealt with poorly, and you saw neighbors, church members, people like, Destiny said you went to school with, every time I was opening my feed, there was some random other different person that was dying from COVID. We saw celebrities, we saw non-celebrities, we saw young children, we saw every age group dying from COVID. And so this was one of those universal things that should have brought people like mostly together. And it did in a lot of ways. Like you said, a lot of us, like Destiny said, a lot of us learn to be a person that wanted to call our moms more, really think about it. But then, like Big Haas said, it actually still is divided in a lot of ways. And that's because some people don't fucking wake up. They have a cognitive dissonance to stay how they are, and they don't care to cross that barrier and bring themselves closer to anything else. So we still have a lot of maturing to do as a country. And that is something that scares the shit out of me personally. So to say that, I'll go with a couple more of these, and then we're going to actually move on to some things that are a little bit more pop culture-ish. So, let's think Kim Ye and Benifer. So you guys can prepare for that. Big Haas says they continue to propagate their narrative. Anytime a younger person has a health issue, they blame the vax with no evidence whatsoever. And then Killmonger Reborn says, Kim, that's because you're a humanist. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Unlike most religious folks who are not. Yeah. Oh man, I used to be Mormon. That's a whole nother story we could go down. Like
magic underwear
thing.
and all.
No,
Yeah, I
no.
grew up, dude. Let me tell you, I went full into it. Like I was committed. I was like, I got the magic underwear. I did the temple thing. I don't. It's interesting. We'll another time we'll talk about it. We have a topic coming up in the future on cult mentality. We had Lindsay on the show. She's also ex-Mormon. She does the Left Angle on Friday evenings with Dutch, so you guys can catch her. But yeah, coming out of a religion is very interesting, and realizing, watching Christians in this whole debacle, how much they lead so much of this crazy shit. And I don't mean all Christians, but I mean the bad actors in that situation. It's very eye-opening. So catch us for a future episode of Cult Mentality and how some of these religious situations do play into the bigger divides. So I will pause that, put a pin in
I want to
that
make
there.
one
And
quick
Dino,
point.
go to you.
No, I just want to make one quick point about this because it's funny to me, and I don't want to get on a vax thing, but anti-vaxxers, this is why they're funny to me. I don't want to get a vaccine because the government may be putting something in there that's going to kill me or something that's going to track me. However, I do want to go to a tattoo parlor where some high school dropout is there putting some ink in my body, and I don't know where that came from. I do want to smoke some weed that came over on a boat or sniff some cocaine that came from somewhere that I don't know where it came from, but I'll put that in my body. I do want to eat McDonald's, which everybody knows is having 10-year-olds grow 6 feet and 3-year-olds grow breasts bigger than their moms. And everyone knows they got all kinds of, 70% of what we eat is genetically modified at this point.
Yeah.
And people in Mississippi and in Michigan can't drink the water. So, but I don't want the vaccine because the government is they're trying to kill. If they wanted to get you, they got you.
Amen. Exactly.
Believe me, trust it.
And that
is the most logical thing. Dino just said it. Like, mic drop. There's nothing else. Like, if those bitches wanted you, motherfuckers, they would have you.
They're already tracking you. They're already tracking you.
Like,
right here.
Y'all are taking in that McDonald's and everything else. Like, there's no tomorrow. When you started saying all that, I had a hard time not laughing because, yes, super fucking, yeah, like true. I mean, the amount of chicken nuggets alone that is ingested by motherfucking children around this country. And then, yeah, the tattoos, the hit me up. Like, oh, I mean, I have a clean station. Oh, it's fine. I trust you. I mean, you got people getting Hep C out of places and they're like, I got Hep C because my bro didn't switch the needles out, but I don't want a vaccine. That tracks. Okay.
Well, so Kim, listen, the chicken nuggets.
Most logical award goes to Dino.
The chicken nuggets is where they actually put the tracking devices in because they're not small enough to get into the eye of a needle, but you can shove them right into the chicken nuggets, no problem. You're swallowing those things all the time.
And if that's the case, then shit, my fucking daughter will never, ever have privacy because
they see her everywhere, huh?
Yeah. She literally is a vegetarian with the caveat of only eating McDonald's chicken nuggets.
So she's a nuggetarian.
Yeah, I'm like, so you were like a flexitarian. And she was like, no, I'm a vegetarian. I'm like, bitch, no, you are not. And yes, I do call my daughter. I will admit, I do call my daughter bitch sometimes. We do have that kind of love language. So I'm like, bitch, you are literally, she's 18. So before y'all come trying to call CPS on me. But yeah, I'm like, bitch, you literally are eating chicken nuggets. And she does have a point. She's like, Mom, that's not like real chicken. Right. I'm like, you kind of got a point
vegan.
there.
There's no real meat in there.
If anybody knows what a chicken nugget is, they win the prize, the golden ticket.
Oh yeah.
Right.
There's no chicken in a chicken nugget.
There, I look there's an internet picture out there, and I hate to say this, folks, but it's pork sphinxters. A whole box of them, right? I mean, that's what gets in your sausage, and yes,
yes, just put it out there. Let's just say it as it is.
Yeah, no, I know, right? But I mean, it was so gross, that's
there's
what
people
gets
that are
into your
going to go.
sausage,
I don't know what
folks.
a sphincter is.
No,
that sounds high. It's a very big word.
Pork buttholes, they buy those by the freaking ton.
Oh god,
and that's what's in your, your bratwursts and your
I'm from the South, like I said. People from the South be eating like hot dogs that are, my dad used to call, he'd be like, I'm not eating those kind of hot dogs. I'd be like, I'd buy some random hot dogs. He'd be like, that's lips and assholes. what?
Mm.
He's like, that is the lips and assholes of the animal. And he's like, we get this brand because it's not. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I am very aware of that.
Well, speaking of assholes, there, Kim, Kanye West news.
Yeah,
Kim is our resident pop culture internet person. What's going on with what happened to Kanye in
what
2022?
did not happen to Kanye? Like, I'm tired. Like, is Kanye not tired? So Kanye needs a break, but I don't think Kanye's going to hit a break anytime soon. So we lost Kim Ye and we gained Bennifer. So for those of you that might have not kept up, some of us older folks remember J-Lo and Ben Affleck back in the day split up, broke a lot of our basic bitches' hearts. And they came back together and they made everybody who believes in every basic bitch rom-com ever known to man on Hallmark believe that true love can actually come back around. So that was great. We gained Bennifer back, but we lost Kim Ye. So Kim and Kardashian split. Kanye decided to, stalk Kim and Pete Davidson for a while. And then finally he gave up on that. So while his love for Kim might have died, his love for Nazis has been revived. And that's where we are at Kanye.
Hey, is his name actually Ye or Yee?
Sorry, it's Ye.
It's Ye. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Kanye.
His official name.
Sorry.
Like
My
when
bad.
Prince was the symbol, right?
Yes. How dare I don't want to
Ye.
disrespect. We don't want to get names wrong. So it's Ye. And no, I don't think he disappeared. I know that what he does is he has bipolar. So I don't want to joke about mental health things, but if you know anything about bipolar, people do tend to be a little bit more manic and then they'll be depressed. And so what you might be, if you're asking that question, what you might be looking at is a person who's going to go into hiding when they're in more of those states that they don't really want to do anything. And then when they're manic, which Ye has said that he has decided to not take his meds at times because he actually feels better and he feels more creative and he feels like he's, producing more things. I think he became BFFs with Candace Owens, who, Dutch said is the new face of anti-vax. So a lot of things for Kanye this year. He literally made Alex Jones, the man who owes all that money for saying Sandy Hook didn't happen, who had to come in and say, I had mental health problems. Sorry about that. Owes all that money. Then Alex Jones decided to keep doing Alex Jones, has Kanye on. Kanye makes Alex Jones look not as crazy and says, I love Nazis. And Alex Jones is like, oh, you're just joking. That's the shock factor, right? Because we don't want people to actually think that Republicans are fucked up. So shut the fuck up. And Kanye goes, nah, bro, I actually do love Nazis. I love Hitler. And Alex Jones is like, shh, we don't say that. And Kanye's like, but I do because I'm Ye. So it was a whole thing. You got to catch that. If you didn't catch that.
Any sentence that begins with, let me tell you why Hitler was a good guy. It's not going to end well. Any sentence that starts there, it's just not going to end well. And
Kanye's more puppet-like. I think people like Candace Owens, Kanye, they don't realize they're being used. They don't realize that they're being used to prove to the other side that, look, not all Black people, not all da-da-da. But that other motherfucker, who is he? What's his name? Dutch, help me out. The dude that's the Nazi, the white man, Kanye's new bro.
when he went to dinner, when he took to dinner with Trump.
Dutch knows. They went to dinner with Trump. That motherfucker is literally crazy. That one, okay, Kanye might be impressionable, doing it for shock factors, but that other dude is a straight up fucking problem. And he is what I would consider, he is a Nazi.
Fuentes. Yeah.
Fuentes. Thank you.
Nick Fuentes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, and you know what? The bipolar, I'm bipolar 1. I have ADHD, which is a hell of a combination to try to treat. I mean, I've had 10 years of therapy and we're in good shape. The thing is the simple way to confirm a bipolar diagnosis is just to say, revolution or yay. We got a great new pill and it's going to cure your bipolar. Well, the average, the person with bipolar is going to be, oh, that's so awesome. But can I keep the mania? Because that is, when we feel our best, when we feel our most creative. And even for people that don't have bipolar, because it's a continuum, when you are in that creative mood, you're in that kind of same space.
Totally.
And I certainly really like my manic periods that I still have, but they're much more managed, than they used to be. And I have great, as much as Ye is doing a lot of things that I disagree with. I have much sympathy for him just as a human who has a very, very difficult disease. The percentage of people that don't survive their bipolar, is way larger than I think a lot of people realize, and that's always in my mind, as well. But
and it's
that
public.
yeah,
he's living that out very publicly. And
I'm less
you have some
forgiving though.
comments.
No, I'm less forgiving. I mean, where does the illness end and the asshole begin? Because he just seems like an asshole to me. He lost me. I'm gonna tell you, we black people, we've given Kanye so many passes, but then when you say slavery was a choice,
Yeah.
you lost me. I'm done with you at that point. I'm done. He may as well call it, what do they call it? Involuntary relocation, the way they want to teach in Florida schools.
Yeah.
So,
well, Dino, I would say this too, because I feel you on that as well. And this is just purely anecdotal, purely me. But my feeling is when you have some type of debilitating, when you have some kind of situation where, bipolar, whatever you have, the assholes are assholes. The not assholes are not assholes, right? I mean, I feel you. Kind of the baseline is to be a dickhead. So then when you have something that can propagate that dickheadishness, that might be the case. Now, that also is, I'm not a psychologist, and you may have some kind of thing that's just being the brain that's getting triggered by it too. So again, I'm not trying to defend him, but I do feel you. And I will say this, and I know there are levels, and mine is well managed, but I will say this: I am still responsible for what I do, even though I have bipolar. Now, sometimes I can't help myself in the moment, but I can then work after, when I've realized I've fucked up, and try to not do it again, or do it less, or grow. And again, it's on a continuum, so maybe it's harder for him to grow, but I want to think that somewhere in there, a lot of people could, work a little harder at getting better. But, that's my experience.
So to wrap this, three-way we got going here, as much as I've enjoyed it, I enjoy being the only female in this three-way. If you found that to be enjoyable, we also have a episode that you can catch on polyamory.
Yes.
That we did a couple weeks back. Where we get a little bit more into that.
Wow.
Definitely, we'll also be bringing back that topic in 2023. So I'm so old. Look at me over here with the 2023.
Well, the 20-threesome. The 2023
threesome. Oh my gosh, we've become Breaking Barriers After Dark all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is, working at my PhD in psychology, it's a very tricky space for me to navigate as well. I have so much empathy watching people that just, say like, I just want to be normal. And then there's other people that say, I embrace my illness and what it does. I've seen it as a gift. Being on the spectrum, you and I feel blessed that I'm autistic for numerous reasons. But then there's other people that it's not so easy for. So we want to recognize that it's a spectrum for everybody. And like Rev said, he spoke to his individual points, and then Dino gave his thoughts. I think I'm going to be somewhere in the middle, which is, I think I love it when people are manic and they create these amazing things. Many celebrities and many artists have created beautiful masterpieces, whether it be music. Kanye's early work is some of my favorite songs and music and his whole collection. But I do believe that what you said, Rev, is important, is that in the moment, if somebody cannot contain the situation, once you know that that's possible, so if you go, I know that I can go to this level, that means I might be able to go to other levels. This is where it's on me to decide if I need to manage this. The problem I have and the sympathy that I have that doesn't go for Kanye, though, is a lot of people, this is where I have the problem with Kanye. Kanye has the ability, he has the resources to get help, to be able to manage his illness, to be able to manage things so that he's not hurting people. Like what having his kids years from now watch that he stalked their mom's like new boyfriend and said, I want to decapitate him and weird shit like that. That's going too far, and that means that he didn't have people around him to really help out. I've seen, whether people like Kim Kardashian or not, I've seen a lot of interviews where she's like, I'm not his manager anymore. I'm not his therapist. I'm not babysitting him anymore. So I think that's important. On the other side of it, I think it's really important to recognize that there's a lot of people in this country, in this globe, since we are talking about more of a humanity global level, that don't have the privilege, nor do they have the resources to get help. And when I say I don't know fully what that's like, but I've had a taste of it when I had postpartum depression and I was seeing things and hearing things and I was begging people to help me and nobody really wanted to take that seriously. And I see the homeless people. There's a new video up on Twitter, which we're going to go to next. There's a video on Twitter of a man spraying a homeless woman or man, I couldn't tell, down on the street out in front of his art gallery. I think that just goes to speak to the fucked up nature of our country at this point. So as we transition away from Kim and Kanye, and congratulations to Bennifer, thank you J-Lo and Ben Affleck for proving that fairy tale romances happen for as long as you guys stay married, because we probably don't think it's gonna last. But you know what? Fingers crossed. You might, come back another 20 years. But as we move on out of this topic, away from Kanye and what he may take for granted and maybe what he wants to decide, I do think some of it's for shock value. So I agree with Rev on some of it, and I agree with Dino on some of it, that when I listen to Kanye, sometimes I have to go with what he says. And he says, I am here as an artist. I'm here to be a disruptor. I am here to piss people off. I'm here to say things to challenge people's minds. So I do think that some of it's mental illness, and I think some of it is a chosen way of being an artist in his eyes, and he's really convinced himself of that.
Yeah.
Now, as we transition, we are going to be talking about the takeover of Twitter. And we're going to be talking about Elon and the takeover of Twitter. We did do an episode on that, so we're not going to dive too deep into it, but we will talk about the highlights and the points of that. But just to start off, I saw today, we usually do something called New and Now, which is sort of like an update, new things that are going on. We didn't do that today, but as I was on Twitter looking up things for the show, I saw this video and everybody was trying to locate this guy that was water hosing down a homeless person. And there was just so much mixed, again, the fucked up nature of our country. There was mixed emotions. People were like, would you want someone on your property, just sitting there pitching a tent, doing drugs on your property? And I was like, it's not his fucking property. It's the public sidewalk. This man decided to take it upon himself to clean up this part of San Francisco because he has all of these artists that come to his gallery. And so he thought, this looks bad for business. I'm going to get this person to move. And so he sprays this homeless person down, and then he tells them, move, and I won't spray you anymore. Like, they're not human. And we are all about humanity here on this channel. So I'm going to be the first to say, I don't care where you stand on this. If you at all sympathize with the man who hosed down a human as if they were fucking dog shit on the side of the sidewalk, you are a piece of shit yourself. That was disgusting to watch. And if your brain even sympathizes with that, I am not okay with that. That made me sick to my stomach. And at the end of the day, the irony was that this man stands for art and humanity, and he's done fundraisers and all of these things, but he hosed down a person who was mentally ill, who didn't even understand what was going on. They were just trying to live on the sidewalk because that's where the fuck their mental illness landed them, and they don't know any different. So at the end of the day, that really pissed the fuck out of me. I'm so sorry for the language, but I was really upset. And I thought about it, and it was like, this is that free speech that Elon brought to Twitter, which allows people to sit and comment and say, I think there's nothing wrong with this. I think that those people should be put in camps, and those people should be put in, chain link fenced areas or cages, because if they're going to act like animals, they should be treated like animals. Well, they're not animals, dickheads. They're fucking humans. So until they start, some sort of program where they genetically modify into animals. And last time I checked, there's not real fucking werewolves unless you believe in that conspiracy. They cannot morph into animals. They will always be human no matter what you see them as. So that is how I'm going to, I guess, transition into Elon taking over Twitter. But I don't know how you two feel about that story.
Hey, Kim, because I know, like not to do an accent or anything, the beep sound when you swear, will that bother you?
That doesn't bother me.
That, because I couldn't get fast enough, when you were saying, what
I was like, we are not child friendly tonight. Like, please do not have your kids around, Dino, but you have your headphones on. So I figured no child was there.
Because I saw that story. So get the button ready, Rev. I tell you, anyone, and I'm not a violent man, but anyone that does something like that, if I were anywhere near there, it wouldn't have turned out well for him. Let me just say that. That's, and does Elon encourage that kind of thing? I don't know what his deal is. Him taking over Twitter, and I'm gonna go quick with this because I could go all night on this. You guys remember back to the show, I was okay with allowing pretty much anything. If it's going to be a free-for-all, then let it be a free-for-all. But if someone, a regular degular person says, I believe Elon has, looks like, what did it say? Like baloney? His skin looks like baloney. And Elon kicked him off Twitter. Where's the free speech? It's crazy. Like, okay, like I said, if it's going to be a free-for-all, let it be a free-for-all. But you're going to get sensitive about the fact that your face looks like baloney. I mean, it's so...
kind of do, though. Like, right? Where's the lie?
It's a weird thing. Like, dude, if you're going to let people have that and you claim free speech, why are you silencing journalists?
Because narcissists cannot hear anything about their appearance or the truth. God forbid the truth come out. So it's not free speech. It's free speech with the caveat that you can't say anything about how I look. You can't say anything that makes me look bad. You can't say anything that shows that my stock and my company's going bad. Guinness World Records just established that Elon Musk is the most, what was it? He lost the most money. The man that has lost the most money. That has got to piss him off.
Wait, minus cha-ching. Unchained there. I don't know what
Guinness is going to find that their Twitter account's been removed in a second because Elon's going to get rid of that.
We're both going to be wiped out here off of Twitter. And it's just so interesting. Twitter is still there. It has survived so far. I'm still, supporting him because he needs my $7.99, apparently, as I've said before, to keep the ship going. But it really is so much bigger than Elon in a lot of ways, because Twitter, especially for journalists, and this, Kim, it was a place where you could go and find verified journalists of all stripes, you know what I mean, on all sides, and feel like this was the best place to get the biggest update, right? The news was happening in real time, and that was great. And that, of course, has gone away. And to me, Twitter became a public trust, like a utility. So what should have happened, instead of Elon getting it, it should have been turned into a public utility, that like quasi-government organization kind of thing, where, look, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's so important to the world and to the people that we can't let just a corporation or one guy that thinks he's Superman, run it. Now, I'm not saying that would be easy, but that's how important it is. And we lost that. And that is something that was a big benefit of Twitter, was that, quick news kind of stuff. You could generally trust it. Now, some people are going to say they don't trust the mainstream media. Well, of course you don't trust them on everything. The thing, I guess, that gives me a little hope is it still has survived, and more or less in my lane, and because of some algorithm issues and stuff, I've still, it's still pretty much stayed the same for me. And so that has been a relief because I've been on Twitter since 2007, this account since 2010. And, I'm 56. It's been a third of my life practically that, Twitter was always my main thing.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Dino, for your thoughts too. For more on our topics on Elon, we covered many different times, different opinions on Elon in the breakdown, which then turned into New and Now. So if you want to catch the beginning portions of some of our older podcasts, you can catch our thoughts on Elon, where we do talk about the transition a lot more. But for time's sake tonight, we're going to go to more important things and some other things. So couple things in the sports arena. You might be wondering, how we chose this list. Just chose many different things. So the Kanye and Bennifer thing was more like pop culture and celebrity, and we chose some politics, we chose some social media, we chose some causes. We just wanted to give you a good full picture of what last year was like. Having said that, we lost some people out of sports. Their last kind of hurrahs. You had Serena Williams retired and brought a lot of us to emotional levels when she gave her speech. And Messi in Argentina won the World Cup. Many people were in tears over both of those scenarios, with Serena Williams giving the speech and really offering that there would be no Serena Williams without Venus, her sister. And I thought that was a really beautiful tribute that she did. She also gave one hell of a fight in that end game, in those last games that she had. And then Messi and Argentina winning the World Cup. Super fucking amazing how that was all pulled off. That was an actual battle. And to see that happen, that was a global thing that was celebrated. So we love seeing that. Any quick thoughts on those two things?
I remember when Venus Williams ruled the tennis landscape, and when she regularly beat up on her little sister, and then something happened and Serena became unbeatable. And she's much more than a sports icon in that she became a cultural icon. With the fashion that she wore, and she was much like, and I've watched tennis since way back when, so I'm old enough to remember Andre Agassi, how he changed what tennis looked like. Serena did the same thing for women. She changed what they could and couldn't wear. She wore a catsuit, for Christ's sake, So she made it. She was like the FloJo of tennis, and she did it with style. And I always enjoyed that she spoke from the heart whenever she won. And she was not only a good winner, when she was defeated, she embraced being defeated. And then for tennis players like Coco Gauff, when they finally beat her in a match, she embraced him and was like, "I'm passing this torch to you. This is yours." And so she did so much for the sport. So I have to say, much love to her and everything she's done. We'd like to say there'll never be another one. We said there would never be another Jordan, but then LeBron happened. So, so I can't wait to see the next one. Lionel Messi, which is fun fact, by the way. I saw in an interview and I didn't know his mother named him after Lionel Richie. When people say that his name is Lionel, they say that all the time. And he says, "My name is Lionel." His mother named him after Lionel Richie, which is kind of cool. Yeah, exactly. So him winning it was amazing to see, when, unlike, like Pele, who we lost as well in 2022, he carried an entire country on his back.
Yeah.
And when they won, Argentina showed up. You want to talk about a party? They know how to party. I mean,
Yes.
it seemed like the entire country showed up for the parade, and
Yes.
and it was great to see. My son who played soccer, um, I remember the year when they lost in the World Cup, and Lionel Messi on the free kicks at the end, he was at midfield and he was crying, and my son literally was crying. Like, oh my god, and it was this emotional moment. And I go in his room, you okay? Get out of my room. Okay. And he was having a moment. So seeing him finally triumph and win this one, it was amazing to see.
Hey,
That was
everybody,
great.
the two of you that can jump into the private chat there. And I'm not going to take a lot of time on this because you both said it really well, but I do remember those days of that reversal. And I remember like McEnroe, and even a little further back in that round of what his craziness brought to tennis, but she transformed the whole sport and made it, something much larger, and, just the phenomenal power and skill and ability. And I played tennis and was pretty good at it. I loved tennis. I went to the tennis
I was
office.
like, oh,
Tennis. A lot. I love playing tennis.
I used to say volleyball.
When I get my new knees, they won't let me play tennis. Maybe I can play that other thing with the little paddle they play. But I like the old people. What is that called? But no, that was that was great. Both of you really put that together well there. I'm going to just agree.
Awesome. Well, having said that, we saw a lot of global things. So just want to really kind of go through some things here that were more on a global level, not a lot for us to get into. And then we're going to kind of close this out on some personal thoughts and our own personal journeys and what we saw this last year for all of us. So a couple things that just want to remember. Wordle went viral. So if you saw Wordle coming up, people love their fucking games. Like Candy Crush is no more because Wordle is the new queen or king. Roe versus Wade was overturned. A lot to unpack there. I think going forward as different things come up in January with this new legislature and the Supreme Court, we'll have some more topics on that to look forward to in 2023. We also had the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. We do cover that, some Trump stuff in our last episode. Not this last one, the one before that. So just find us on our YouTube. So youtube.com/digonamerica, twitch.com/digonamerica as well for the playbacks to these. And then also there was a couple things that I thought were pretty interesting in the science area, Dino, that you brought to my attention that we can just round out here. And then we can do our personal kind of wrap up. And that was NASA used a missile to, kind of change the trajectory of an asteroid. I thought that was one interesting thing. And then they also discovered nuclear fusion. So if you want to lead us into those two things, because I thought those were very fascinating things, and maybe some people watching don't want to hear about the any more of the celebrities of last year, and maybe they want to hear about some of the other things that, back in the 60s, we used to talk a lot about science and a lot of NASA topics, and we really got away from that. So it was nice to see some new topics come up, even if it was like a fucking asteroid coming at us like a movie. They kept that very chill because I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah. Asteroids bump into us all the time. Like there's hundreds and hundreds of asteroids that hit us all the time, and what we do know at some point, there's going to be something coming at us that's going to be pretty big, like at some point. And I like what they said in it was the movie with Bruce Willis, where they went up there and tried to destroy the asteroid. When the guy said, you couldn't see this asteroid coming at us, and he said, our budget only covers about 20% of the sky, and it's a big fucking sky. So it's they wanted to judge our ability to defend ourselves against an oncoming asteroid. So they took like a benign asteroid, it wasn't even headed our way, and they wanted to smash something into it to see if they could change the trajectory. And they did. And that's a big deal. Like,
it is.
Because it's before. I don't know that we had the missile technology, and this is weird how things that are used for negative can be used positively, like nuclear weapons and missiles and stuff like that we can use to kill ourselves. If we just got positive, we could use these things for to better us and to defend us against things like missiles. So that was a big deal. Yeah.
That is a very true thing. The Destiny, if just one of these satellites, and they're putting up a lot of them fast, would break trajectory and bump into a couple of more, it could put up enough debris that we can't even go into outer space, because it literally takes a grain of sand can take down a spaceship. So it is very real and very kind of crazy. And Dino, I don't think you had quite finished your thought, but I also wanted to say what they did with that asteroid is they actually just crashed the whole vehicle, right into it, basically the rocket, and then into its stages. And then I know you also talked about the nuclear fusion, and the great thing about that to me was though it kind of sorta had been confirmed before, this was definite confirmation that we can create fusion. Can we create it for unlimited energy? We don't know that yet, but it's possible to cook the center of a star on Earth. And that, could be a big deal for Destiny at 21 and my 19-year-old and my 9-year-old, might not be for me. Although the government wants to keep me around, I heard, till I'm 150, just so I keep paying taxes.
Yeah, it's weird. The reason we don't travel to other planets, quite honestly, especially the ones in our solar system, is that rockets can't hold enough fuel to get us there, or to get us there and get us back. At some point it becomes a momentum. So something like nuclear fusion, we're about to boldly go. I mean, this is a fun time to be alive. I wish I was
about to boldly go.
I can't. We're on the precipice. I mean, think about the nuclear fusion. We're creating what is at the core of our sun, that kind of energy, and it's weird. Like when you think about, if we got this renewable, clean energy for everybody, what are we going to fight over on this planet? We can't fight over oil. We can't. What are we going to fight over?
Something.
We'll find something.
We'll find it. Yeah.
It's a good time to be alive. For young people, I will say, I mean, when I watch old shows, they'll show the year 1987, and they were flying cars and all those things, and we still don't have those in 2023. But I think they're coming. I mean, this whole thing with fusion is we're on the doorsteps of, I want that rocket. What is that? That rocket board I saw in Back to the Future. They still don't have the hoverboard thing, man. I was promised that in 1984. I want my damn hoverboard.
I thought the year 2000 was going to bring all the spaceshipy, New World stuff, and it just brought Y2K, weirdness, and me winning a couple Back That Ass Up contests at Freaknik. So, I can't.
Well, the funny thing is,
too much, but
if you think about all the tech we have,
which is technically science, by the way, for those that don't know,
is it? All right, I'd like to see that science.
There's a science.
I'm good. I want to see all the evidence. The thing is, except for the shiny silver suits, right? The future is really here. The tablets, the iPhones, and all this technology that we really have. You run back to me when I was 5-10 years old, I'd be like, what? Holy cow. I'd be going, this is crazy and really cool.
Yeah,
the other thing,
Alexa?
yeah, it's really all here. And Dino, I just wanted to say something too, is before I don't want to get too far in the weeds with science, but we'll have to find a way to do a science show like this at some point. The amazing thing about, the Earth, one of them is that we have a moon that creates our tidal forces. You know what I mean? So it's just, this is just
flat.
Coincidence. But the other thing is the way that we have to use rockets to break free of gravity. And if the planet were a little larger, at 1.5 times larger, you couldn't even break free of the planet with a rocket. A thriving civilization would have to find another way to get off the planet. And what it would be is probably to fly like a plane up as high as it could and then rocket from that. But just the fact that we can even get off the planet is amazing. And nuclear fission driven engines, those will be, like you said, what will take us around the solar system. Because, for example, you couldn't take a rocket to Proxima Centauri because it would take the sum total of the universe like squared in energy to just make the trip one way. So, it is a big fucking universe out there, folks. Very big.
Well, with that, thank you so much. And I agree. Let's do a science show. Like, that used to be my jam back in the day, math and science. That was my thing. I went to NASA, did the whole space camp thing, threw up after the, zero gravity shit. So yeah, not my jam with that. But so taking us into our wrap up here, just want to say thank you for everybody who has been here with us, the, ride or dies that stay from the beginning to the end. Those of you that stay only a little bit, we equally enjoy you all. And thank you for the comments. So as we go out, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be actually talking a little bit about our personal journeys. And then I'll start us off with the Breaking Barriers journey. So 2022 brought us Breaking Barriers. And that started with just a little Twitter space room over on Twitter. And that was hosted by Dino. He had another co-host at the time that he had coming on. I popped in just out of sheer curiosity and to learn. I was very fascinated with the topics. I think that he was bringing the way that he was discussing those topics so openly, so honestly, and also not with everybody agreeing. And that's what we have tried to continue on our journey here on Breaking Barriers on Dig on America as we have gone through this year. So in July, we saw the creation of Breaking Barriers on digonamerica.com/YouTube or YouTube/Dig on America. Yeah. And Twitch and also on Twitter. And we were able to bring Rev on the last couple of months. That's been a great thing. We've had some great guests on. What we have kept throughout this process is this idea that we have this mission to prove that it's possible to be comfortable with the uncomfortable conversations and that it's important to have those. And that is a testament to Dino. And I would like to thank Dino for being a part of my journey this last year, both on Twitter and also personally offline, being sort of that big brother figure at times when I'm like, shit's falling apart, like my health, or I've got this. And he's like, I got your back, do what you got to do. We have had weeks where we killed it. I've had weeks where I've been crying and a mess. And you all have just, hung in there with us. If you have stayed with us, we thank you so much. Dino has always been so grateful and so nice to allow me to just be in the moment, be who I am. And, probably wouldn't take less. If I tried to come here fake, he probably would call me out. Rev came in. I met him on Twitter as well. And he was just a really good addition because the voice, we call him the voice. And it was really great to have him come in as this addition. To everybody that has been a guest this last year, you've really shown us this amazing level of diversity that we've been able to have here. You've watched me go on this journey of learning lessons in real time on the show and off the show in front of my family. And this show, the conversations we've had here has made me not only a better person, but a better mom in my conversations to my children on all topics, hopefully a better partner, hopefully a better friend, hopefully a better whatever it is that, we can be these days. There's too many titles, I think. But as I've gone through 2023, I beat cancer. I almost lost my life. I had a new appreciation for life. I got COVID. I beat COVID. I said, fuck COVID many different times, got COVID again. I lived through all of that. I made some mistakes and learned who I wasn't, but I also killed it at a lot of shit and learned who I was. I learned how strong I was at times. And I learned that, I have some weaknesses that I definitely need to work on, as I think we all do. So if anything, in closing out my personal journey in 2023, coming into 2023 is that, there is no new year, new beginning for me. It's the same Kim on her same bullshit, just in a new year, trying to make it better than I was last year and trying to learn more than what I knew last year And in the words of Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better. And I'm hoping to take that into 2023, hoping all of you will come on that journey with us and allow us to not only be the teachers, but to also be the students of life, both in humanity and also in topic and in religion and theory. So thank you for being here with all of us from the bottom of my heart, for those of you that accept me as I am, and also that show graciousness and grace when I might be a little off and have to be, schooled every now and then, or allotted then. Thank you so much for everybody who's been supportive of us. And as I say that, I would like to pass the mic over to Rev, as you have been a great addition, and we're going to let Dino wrap us out tonight on these thoughts. So just before we do that, just remember that tomorrow we do have Ladies Night, and you can find us here. That will be 7 Central Time, I believe. Let me double check on that, and you can find that on my Twitter at Dear Kimberly K. That will be me, Lindsay, Killmonger Reborn. Don't come on my show giving more love to some other woman. Like, I'm jealous. Like, that is not appropriate. Like, you did not understand the assignment. You have to love Kim more and just sometimes let us know that you like Lindsay. But girl, she is on Friday nights. Catch her over there. No, just kidding though. We do love us some Lindsay. So you can catch us all though. Me, Lawyer Anna, Amani, prayers for her. She is not feeling well. And Lindsay tomorrow night for Ladies Night. I don't know how wild it's going to get. So bring a drink, bring a friend, but bring yourself as you are, as we will be bringing ourselves as we are. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Rev, what you got for us? What was your personal journey?
It was a great year, and it was a devastating year. Loss was obviously a big theme for the first 6 months of the year, but I really feel like, my journey, I am stronger. I am better. I am older, more mature. I have totally changed the way that I feel about love and relationships. And I have a wonderful wife, a wonderful partner. And I just wanted to, kind of give it a shout out to them, to Joe and B, for just making my life even more amazing this year, and to my wonderful son and my daughter, who's going to be 20, which just blows my mind, and is doing fantastic in college, and is a New Yorker now, which is great, because I would love to be a New Yorker, except it's too darn expensive. But I think the biggest thing for me this year really was, the loss of my dad. But what I've learned about grief and what I can share with people about grief has, again, been a tremendous asset for me and for other people, because being able to maneuver through grief is something that we all really need to be prepared for, because it's going to happen. Grief comes. And so relationships, when you lose somebody, feels very much like the same grief when somebody passes away. So I think that my end of the year wrap up would be prepared for grief, look into it so that what it's going to feel like, and DM me if you want a little tip or two. I won't take the time to do it here, but I'm always happy to talk about it. And then finally, I'm going to wrap it up before I throw it to Dino. I am so excited. Kim, we've got lots of things in the works, and I've actually gathered some artists and some other people to be a part of what we've talked about. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Dino, to be able to be a part of this fantastic show that you created and brought Kim in, and she helped, flush out. I am 100% happy to be a part of this. It is different, and it is fun, and it should be ubiquitous. Everybody should be watching this. 300 million people, 400 million people should be watching this on Tuesday nights.
8 billion.
Yeah, it is, exactly. All 8 billion. Let's get them all high-speed internet just so they can watch Breaking Barriers. And Dino, right at you, my friend.
Well, if you were told by a doctor that this was your last year on Earth, how would you live? I mean, really, how would you live your life if you knew you had a year to live? 2022 was like that for me. Having, as I said, having almost died from cancer the year before, I wanted to live 2022 as if my time was short. Because quite frankly, it's short for all of us. Even I heard a saying that says, even if you know it's coming, when death arrives, it's always a stranger. So none of us knows when our time is coming. It could be a car accident, it could be a heart attack. It's coming for us all. It's stalking all of our footsteps, and I think we should live as if our time is short. Hug the ones that we love much more. Tell them you love them. Squash the beefs that that you had with people that you love, and people who don't care about you that you had beef. Well, fuck them. Just get them out of your life altogether because you don't need their energy.
Right.
And live your days that way. And I would encourage you to live your 2023 that way. You don't have to make these broad resolutions about changing your life, because change is about consistency. We often are what we do. So if you love, then you're a lover. If you try to bring peace, then you're a peacemaker. If that's what dominates your time. So, if you want to lose weight, then don't join the gym. Go out and go for a walk every day and let that be consistent. And the things that you do that consistently until it's just what you do. For us here on this panel, we have conversations with those who disagree with us, respectful conversations, and we listen. So, I would encourage you, listen more, love more, and move forward in that. And in that, Rev, you can take us out.
Well, this has been another phenomenal episode of Breaking Barriers. For Dino Moore and Kimberly Kay, I'm Revolution McInnes. Did you have one more thing, Kim? Was I seeing that? Oh, no. Just give me the peace sign. I wasn't sure. Like, wait, what's going on? The episode will be on next week. Same time-ish. Same place for sure. YouTube and Twitch. And tomorrow, Ladies Night. Make sure you check that out. Check out everybody on the Dig on America network. And thanks to Dutch and Mikey, they were both in here. Big Hoss was in here. Everybody on Dig on America. We are excited to be here. We're excited for 2023. Subscribe, hop into Twitch and subscribe. And, we all would love $4 or $5 an episode. Come on now, support us. And you guys have a great 2023. And we are out of here, and we will be back next week.